to the program. Ariyo is my name. Once again, the unending controversy on the issue of fuel subsidy is dominating national discourse. It is apparent that the debate, which has been raging since the return of democracy in 1999, will not abate anytime soon. It would be recalled that President Muhammadu Buhari has backed the payment of 10.6 trillion naira as subsidies on the consumption of PMS between January 2022 and June this year. Nigeria currently runs two forms of subsidy. The first is the payment of the difference between the actual pump price of PMS, which is arrived at after calculating the landing cost and the extant margins. The other is the cost of transportation, about 30 naira, paid on every liter to ensure that the price of PMS is similar across the country. To put in better perspective, in Nigeria's 2022 budget, capital expenditure stood at 5.4 trillion naira, while subsidy payment was initially 4 trillion naira, but rose to about 7 trillion naira before the end of the year. In the 2023 budget, the subsidy from January to June, when the government said it would stop the subsidy, stands at 3.6 trillion naira. Though industry players have insisted that subsidy removal remains the best option for the country, the intrigues of the impact on the economy and the inability of government to refine petroleum products locally, despite being the leading crude oil producer in Africa, have divided labor unions, energy experts, oil marketers, and civil society organizations. For most unions, subsidy remains the only gain for the masses after years of crude oil extraction. So this morning we're taking a look again at the removal of a subsidy that we also expect to start in June. My guest is already here. We'll take a break now. When we'll come back, we'll hit the ground running. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Today we're taking a look at oil subsidy removal that we expect that it will start in June this year, when the president-elect actually take over the reins of power. And I have with me in the studio to do justice to that, I have Mr. Omoni Akinjo, an economist. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Let's take a look at this oil subsidy. What's your take on this? Should we remove it or not?
Yeah, I support total removal of subsidy on petrol. It should be a total withdrawal of subsidy. And the reason I'm not perfect, the subsidy is meant to reduce the burden of the people. But when it becomes a burden on the government, then we have to do something about it. If you look at the statistics, we have about 30 to 40% of our budget going on fuel subsidy alone. Then how do the country survive? We might look at it that, well, it's the role of the government is welfareism of the citizenry. Fine, but the government can also provide the welfare for the people when practically about 40% of the budget is going on subsidy. And who are those enjoying the subsidy? The rich enjoy more of that subsidized petrol. Let's get an instance today. You have a car, I have a car. I have bought a fuel, I have used a fuel. If I have not bought today, I have used a fuel. That means per every liter of petrol I buy, the government gives something to my pocket. But remember, somebody has not bought the petrol today. So that means government has not subsidized that person. So subsidy, in other words, increases the income disparity between the rich and the poor. And any policy that widens the poverty rate, it shouldn't be encouraged. It should be killed at a point. So today, our governor will use more petrol than I will use. It means that even as a government, he's enjoying more subsidized rates than I do. And same, like, blah, blah, blah. So today somebody is driving his car from here to Lagos. He bought probably 50 liters of petrol. That means he has enjoyed 50 times whatever rate the government is subsidizing. But somebody is moving from here to Lagos, is going on a public transport. And that's a public transport will carry about 15 14 people. It means about 14 people are enjoy a subsidized rate. When you divide it, you find out that somebody who has used his car is enjoying government wealth than the other. So it increases. It means that if the government has spent about 4 trillion naira on a subsidy, it means when you share it, statistically, the rich enjoy more of that subsidized rate than the poor.
So in the first place, before 1999, we hardly heard about this issue of subsidy.
Subsidy,
so
yeah.
How did we get here?
No, subsidy is not even, there's subsidy before 99. That's been subsidized about 1970 thereabout. But when Obasanjo came on board, the issue of subsidy became pronounced. And when Obasanjo, I think, when he tried to increase petrol to about 30 naira, there was mass protest. As at that time, people protested, they fought. I think he reduced it to either 25 naira. Gradually, when Obasanjo was leaving, he increased it to 75 naira. Yar'Adua came. This 70 or 75 naira. Yar'Adua came, got it to 65 naira. And now we are in. When Jonathan increased it, in fact, Jonathan was going to do total withdrawal of subsidy. But Nigerians also did what we call Occupy Nigeria. And they said we can't work. Yeah, they was forced to reduce it to 87 naira. So, when you look at it statistically, practically the government with the heart of their people will always want to withdraw subsidy. Because, and this subsidy has also exposed us critically to the corruption.
How do you mean exposed us to corruption?
And in fact, when you look at the statistics in I think it was 2012, when we were really exposed to the total withdrawal of subsidy by Ngojo Wella then, she gave us statistics of those people that give fake figures to get, even when they did deliver, to get money from subsidy withdrawal, subsidy payments. And they get it. We have a number of them. We are in this country and we know the host of them that were mentioned, and they could not refute it. Practically, a lot of people steal from there. So there's corruption. And for me, you need to withdraw subsidy for you to address the issue of corruption and for government to also have priority in other areas. If a country to grow, it must be a capitalistic economy. We are not in a communism. We are growing a capitalistic economy. And if it's a capitalistic economy, the government only require majorly to provide security and basic amenities like road. If government will use about 4 trillion naira, which is about 40% of the total budget, to finance only subsidy on petrol, do you think government will have money to even pay salaries?
Some school of thought have also said that even when a subsidy was withdrawn from diesel, when it was also withdrawn from kerosene, it looks as if the masses are also being subjected to
our economy does not really revolve around that majorly. We depend majorly on petrol. Diesel, of course, it affects a lot but okay, today, look at the statistics. How many people are concerned about the price of diesel? If there's no availability of diesel, do you really feel it in the streets? But let us have a scarcity of petrol for a day. You feel it everywhere. Of course, diesel is necessary petrol, and of course, people are even growing petrol. A lot of people use gas in their homes. But when there's scarcity of petrol, there's always a problem. So
is it about scarcity now, or when the subsidy is also removed, there could be also rise in the price of PMS?
Yeah, if there's total withdrawal, there will be rise in price of PMS. Of course, that's natural. But if government will be withdrawing total withdrawal of subsidy, my argument remains that the sector need to be privatized. You need Dangote refinery to come on board at full optimal level producing. You need to also sell off practically the refineries we have that are moribund, they are not working. The likes of Warri, Kaduna, sell them off, and you sell it to those that have money and let them be producing. So I have some people that can come on board, make that sector very competitive so that we can have about 4 or 5 people that are refining. So we don't need to take the same crude outside this country.
Before we go to that, let's also take a look at what the unionists are also saying about the removal of subsidy. They say subsidy remains the only gain for the masses after years of crude oil extraction. They're also taking a look at that is only the benefit that government, that people, that Nigerians are also getting from government. So why should we remove it from them?
Good. You see, let me go back to where I started. The masses we just mentioned, what is the percentile of the subsidy they enjoy? You enjoy more than they do. I enjoy more than they do. The market woman only need an Okada person to just pick her to their market. They don't. You enjoy it more than they do. And if you are saying the government, I'm not in government, but the reality stands that no government can sustain itself by paying about 40% of the total earnings to subsidize. There's no way the government cannot. It will collide, it will crash. It cannot work. The reality stands that the government needs to total withdrawal, not just total withdrawal, because you see the labor union, they are right because fine, but the reality stands that there's no government that can survive when they pay that as subsidy. And I think that was the cry of Ngojowela then.
Okay. So how do we get out of it? See, invariably by June the subsidy will be removed finally.
Yeah.
And I also expect that there should be outcry. There would be outcry from Nigerians because prices of it could also lead to inflation.
Yeah.
So what do you think government could do to actually get against all of this?
I think for me, if the current administration is being sincere, there ought to have been an alternative. And what do I mean? You cannot continue to export your crude and refine it and you don't expect the cost to be high. Shipping and reshipping will add cost and it will be very high. And when you look at the job lost only on that export is very high. Now, if you refine here and you privatize, you have a refinery, you have about 5, probably you have in Warri, you have in Lagos, you have in Ondo State here, you have about 5 refineries. The job creation alone, the number of those that will be created, that will create job for, will be amazing. Take a look at MTN. Do you know direct and indirect job MTN Glo has provided because that sector was privatized? Before now, we have to go to polling booths and start making calls. The convenience is there, and it has provided job for millions. We have those that sell recharge cards, their dealers, and the rest. If today the byproduct alone from the crude that other countries use, only the byproduct alone will provide job for so many people. The greatest problem we have here is unemployment that leads to insecurity. And that is a very major problem. I think any policy government wants to implement should be looking at job creation.
Our government has also given licenses to private people to set up their refineries. And up to today, we are not seeing that.
Of course, I'm aware about it, Dangote. And Dangote is almost done. I know this, you don't just...
I said Dangote, I know
a lot of people, some of these certificates or licenses are given politically. Give it to those that are serious. We know the serious people who are in business in this country. We know them. Not those part-time politicians, part-time businessmen. No. Those serious-minded business people. Those are the people you need to even invite them, not just call. You beg them. You call them and talk to them. Those serious-minded people, not those that are in politics at the same time in business. So those serious people, invite them, say to them, let them, give them licenses, let them have those refineries. I can assure you, we have many of them. We can start counting. Aside from Dangote, we have Adenuga, we have Otedola, who are serious in their business. That is in Yoruba as well. We have Rano is there. We have those people that are even in the oil business.
Why are they not showing interest?
Of course.
It's only Dangote that is also showing interest, and I will also know that his refinery also, very soon it will come on board.
Yeah, you see, Dangote had shown interest. Other people are also interested. We have, if you look at Oshibajo, came on board and wanted to encourage modular refinery. But politically, it died because when the president was out of the country, he came to Niger Delta area, discussed with them that if that will solve problem and provide security, then let us have modular refinery. But when the president came back, things changed. So that is political. And that is not an issue to discuss now. So a lot are political. But if the government want to be sincere you need to encourage people, not government go into it, to serve. I think if Dangote was interested in buying, before he started building, he wanted to buy the refineries. But when they were not ready to sell, he set up his own. Now, if we have about 5 refineries owned by private people or PPP arrangements, then if that is in place, then we have about 5, then we can now do total withdrawal of subsidy. But if we are going to withdraw subsidy and that alternative is not being provided, that will be a problem.
Exactly, because when you take a look at the time lag now, June, and here we are.
No, of course we can shift it. We can shift. It's on the government has only pronounced. Of course, the big government told us that we are going to be population census this month. It has been shifted. So that's the government can look into it and then shift it. And then it's okay, when these are in place, we can do it. But if we don't have refineries that are working here and you are going to withdraw, there will be a problem. The inflationary rate will be so high. And if you are going to have only Dangote, then Dangote will monopolize the market and there will be a problem. And it will make so much profit, and the market, the citizens, the poor people might not be able to buy petrol again. So, and since our economy revolves around petrol, and practically everything will be very high. But before the government will do total withdrawal, there must have been a provision for the citizenry to have.
And the figure from government is that government is also wasting around 67 billion naira yearly subsidizing unused fuel. What does that mean?
Yeah, of course, that is the corruption in the system.
Okay.
Yeah, the corruption in the system. A lot of those the assumed delivered products are not delivered. We know they are in Nigeria. We all know, and those people just make money illegally, and they come and baboose the poor, and they come and use the same money to contest election, and the same people go to National Assembly, they become governor, they become executive. So, it's a big problem. And I think if sincerely we want to address issues, we must address corruption systemically. And another way to address corruption is to also remove subsidy. So, because it's not to say you want to arrest people, pick this, arrest them. No, you fight corruption systemically. And the only way is that you start removing subsidies. And when you remove subsidy today, I can assure you, many people will cry. And those that benefited from it will start financing outcry, protests everywhere. And that was what happened in 2012 when Jonathan wanted to remove it.
But government in Nigeria are not also having good experience of this subsidy removal. Because I also asked you the last time, the issue of diesel and kerosene, instead of the price to come down, the price is also going up.
Because we don't have competition. And that is why I say go back that the market is not competitive. If Glo is not giving you maximum satisfaction, today you go to MTN. Because today we still depend on one source. That's to go back that the government needs to throw the market very competitive and allow the market forces, the visible hand of market and demand and supply, to dictate the price. If there's competition, naturally, over time price will go down. Because you have Coca-Cola. If Coca-Cola you don't have the capacity, you go and buy Pepsi. And if Pepsi is too high, Vicky will bring another product for you. So that naturally will fall the price. The major thing today now is that we don't have competition. It is depending on only one source.
And the competition will also be difficult to come by. Now when you take a look at how the time frame to actually establish a refinery. Dangote has also been on this refinery for more than 5 years now.
No, if we are selling the refinery, it took Buhari to renovate and rehabilitate, to refix the Kaduna refinery and Warri when he came on board in 2015. It took him just 6 months. And that is government. If an individual will be coming on board, if government will do something for 6 months, the individual will do it in 3 months or 4 months. Because the bureaucracy won't be there. So if it takes the government, the federal government to and that was because it's government. If it were to be an individual that came on board then, and they only produced for maybe for a few weeks or 3 months, and they stopped. If we have to ban an individual, it won't stop. It won't stop.
I also read from those who are also interested in buying these refineries, government-owned refineries.
Yeah.
They said the facilities are also obsolete. So,
of course, we have what we have in about 30 years ago. Of course, we expect it, but we are going to sell.
That could also be the reason why people are not also showing interest in buying the refineries.
No. I don't agree with you in that. The major thing is the government is not even interested in selling. This administration has never. The last administration had intention of selling, but this government, the president, never wanted to sell. There's no time they were even interested in selling, and that is why some of us, an average economist, would look at it that we need to sell. Because why do we have it? If you have a property that is redundant, that is not being productive, why do you have to keep it? And somebody is begging that I can make it work. Why don't you sell? It's not about you are selling inheritance. No. Because that is the way some people will look at it. No.
Government has also come up with the issue of a palliative in case that subsidy is removed in June.
Yeah.
The committee has also been set up, but there is also this disagreement between that committee and also governments of various states. So, as a professional, what do you think should be the palliative if invariably government removes the subsidy in June?
You see, for me, what is important is that the people require little, those that are unemployed, like the government actually promised that there will be stipend to them. And the database, as the government did promise, that those people will get little support. But, it's not political. It's if you are in the party, either PDP or APC, and your government is in power, that's why you can get it. I think those that are on the streets are doing nothing should be given certain support monthly, why the government make provision for them. And we should have a database where those that are not employed, once you are employed, your name is up there. We have BVN now that we can use to trace you. We have NIM that we can use I believe government is gradually getting there, trying to get those data. So with that, if you are lying, your BVN can show it. NIM, you can't, from my understanding, I don't know if I'm correct, you cannot do NIM twice. And you cannot have two BVN. Those two, we can use it and then know, is it in your BVN, if you are earning salary, it's anywhere you can, it can be, when you put it into you input it, it will regress, it will show everything. So if you are lying that you don't have a job, or you don't have a job, it's there. So those government can use that to trace those that doesn't have anything doing and see how we can support them little. And those that have should allow those that doesn't have to get something.
Do you think that will also create a kind of fraud in that place? Because some people have also said that instead of that, why don't government also go into infrastructure, maybe building roads?
That is why I even support. My argument is, if government continue with this subsidy, the government cannot do any projects. So the money should be used in providing security and infrastructure. And that is why, me as a person, I support total withdrawal. So that the money can be used to provide infrastructure. And those, you see, the interest rates in Nigeria is too high. So the government can as well use the same money and provide loan at less at 1%, 0 digit interest rate for the people that are in business, SME, because you cannot sustain any business with about 30-something% interest rates. It's difficult. It's tough. So these are areas that the government can put the money, and these are places you can reinvest it. I remember during Jonathan, when they withdrew, they said they called it Shopee, subsidy reinvestment project. So then we can as well have another Shopee where the government can tell us this is the money that ought to go for subsidy.
It was also alleged that that money in Shopee was also mismanaged.
Yeah, of course, Nigeria system. We are thieves. Practically, we are thieves. Put me there, I might also steal. Put you there, I might also steal. So we are all criminals. Just all criminals.
Well, it's not every Nigerian that's...
practically all of us. When you have 95%, what do you have again? 95% of Nigeria are criminals. Put them there. Somebody will come on TV and tell you I'm a saint, but let him just go there. We have it now. Before now, we have people that we trusted, that we believed they were going to do well. But when they got to power, you see them building mansions. You ask them, how much is your salary? And these are questions, these are things I said that we need to start questioning integrity. You need to asking people, where is the source and we start celebrating. We start celebrating.
And the fear in the minds of most Nigerians is that when this subsidy is removed in June without a proper planning, that it could cause hardship.
Yeah, of course, it will. See, not just hardship, it will reduce the welfare of the people. The purchasing power. You know, when there's inflation, the purchasing power is reduced. People will not be able to eat 3 times. Maybe some will go back to 1 and many will not be able to buy biscuits for their children and the rest.
So to force the government should also ensure that we have more refineries in place.
Yeah, for me, I think if Tinubu comes on board by May 29 and we have June, he has the opportunity of postponing it and make provision. But I think if Tinubu also wants to do well, the administration will also do well, he needs to also remove subsidy.
In the last 25 minutes or thereabout of him speaking with Mr. Omoniji Akinjo, an economist, and together we're taking a look at the removal of subsidy in Nigeria. Government plans to remove subsidy from petrol in June. Thank you so much for sharing your thought with us on the show today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
That's is going to be on the show. Join us on Friday for another one. Kunle Aroyo is my name. Good morning.